Peace and welcome to our Commodore 64 episode of Oddly Familiar. Today is all about the old school console, released in 1982 and discontinued in 1994. And with the homebrew scene, you can still find new games being made to this day. So with no further delay, here's Oddly Familiar Commodore 64 themes. Our first up today comes from Brian Bloodaxe, and it's the only theme in the entire game. And now let's compare that to the Liberty Bell March. On our Oddly scale, this one is an easy 5 out of 5. It's basically a chiptune cover. However, I would say when the cover of the game looks like this, there's a direct inspiration from Monty Python. The name Brian looks like it's lifted straight from the life of Brian, and the rest of it has a very distinct Terry Gilliam style. I think it's safe to say they were inspired by the theme of Monty Python's Flying Circus, which uses a rendition of the Liberty Bell March. The game was released in 1985, while Monty Python first aired in 1969, and it went on to become legendary. In at number 9, we have the 1990 game Jango by Marcus Schneider. And here is the main theme from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It may only be a small portion of the overall theme, but when you take a game titled Jango and you have a Western-sounding theme, I can't help but think of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Composed by the one and only Ennio Morricone, this theme has influenced many themes in gaming. Ones I immediately think of are from Mario Kart 64 and one of my favorites, The Town with No Name. This one gets a 3 out of 5 on the Oddly scale. It's not a cover, and it's only a small portion of the track. In at number 8, we have Hunchback. Here's the music from the title screen. And now let's listen to Teddy Bear's Picnic.
If you go down in the woods today, you're sure of a big surprise. If you go down in the woods today...
I think most gamers from my generation will remember this from Banjo-Kazooie, Gruntilda's Lair by Grant Kirkhope. Written in 1907, with lyrics being added in 1932. The instrumental is in the public domain, and anyone can legally make their own rendition. The lyrics, however, I believe are still copyrighted, so if you do make your own rendition, just avoid using the lyrics. On the Oddly scale, this one gets a 4 out of 5. It's basically a cover, but it's only 17 seconds long.
If you go down in the woods today, you're sure of a big surprise. If you go down in the woods...
Our lucky number 7 is from California Games, the BMX Thief. And that sure sounds like the theme of the Batman TV show. Debuting in 1966 and starring Adam West, the show only lasted for 3 seasons, however they produced 120 episodes. Season 2 alone had 60 episodes. airing 2 per week. I find that to be amazing. Compare that to something like Mandalorian Season 1, which had a total of 8 episodes. I understand the cost and the production value of Mando is much higher, but when did we get to the point where 8 episodes in a season is acceptable? Anyway, California Games was composed by Chris Grigg. His resume includes all sorts of systems and consoles, from the Commodore 64 to the NES, the Atari Lynx, and even the Sega Genesis, just to name a few. In at number 6, we have one from 10, Knockout. And that sure sounds at least a little bit like This Little Light of Mine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine.
On our oddly scale, this one receives a 3 out of 5. It's not exact by any means, but it does kind of have the same vibe. As many of our return viewers know, I'm an advocate for more composer credits in video games. Far too often is it almost impossible to find out who composed a certain theme. However, on this game, I want you to watch how it boots, and the first screen that pops up. It loads, and then you see a thank you message to the composer before even reaching the title screen. So big thumbs up to the developers for doing this.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine.
Our number 5 spot is from Friday the 13th. And that is Old McDonald Had a Farm.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on his farm he had some chicks, E-I-E-I-O.
So this one gets an easy 5 out of 5. It's basically note for note for the entire duration of the theme. Old MacDonald Had a Farm was published in 1706, with the songwriter being probably known, with the written date not exactly known either. The Friday the 13th game was released in 1986, and the soundtrack is full of oddly entries. One of them was a song we just talked about, so here's a quick example.
Chicks, E-I-E-I-O, with a here and a there, here, there, everywhere.
Unlucky number 4 comes from the 1993 game Mayhem Monsterland, and the title screen theme. I could give you a tiny hint, or maybe a toony hint. Here is the opening theme to Tiny Toon Adventures.
We're tiny, we're toony, we're all a little loony, and in this cartoony we're invading your TV. We're comic.
Tiny Toon Adventures debuted in 1990, and this intro song is one of the most memorable cartoon intros. It's catchy, and it's probably in the top 10 90s cartoon intro themes. On our oddly scale, this one receives a 4 out of 5. It's hard to deny the similarities, and the longer you listen to it, the more you'll notice just how similar it really is. Mayhem Monsterland was released in 1993, about 3 years after the debut of Tiny Toon Adventures.
We're tiny, we're toony, we're all a little loony, and in this cartoony we're invading your TV.
Our number 3 spot is from Anastasia, and it's the stage background music. Now let's compare that to Lila by Derek and the Dominoes. So I believe the devs used this theme without permission. And I don't mean ripping off Derek and the Dominoes, but I think they ripped this from another game, or from a demo, because that's actually a Lila cover by Edwin Van Santen, one of the founding members of 20cc who passed away in 2006. My suspicions were confirmed when I came across these two comments. If anyone knows the exact source, please let us know. That's some good Oddly material. In at number 2, we have the game Smurfin. And here is Michael Jackson's song, Billie Jean. It may start out sounding unique, but once it gets going and the full melody picks up, it's definitely some MJ. The game Smurfin is a homebrew port. They took the Coleco version and ported it to the Commodore 64. However, I couldn't find Billie Jean on the Coleco version. It seems the Commodore 64 composer just liked MJ and wanted to throw it in. I would say it's pretty close to a cover. Close enough that I would rate it a 4 out of 5 on the Oddly scale. Our last entry today comes from Quango. And that, without a doubt, is The Entertainer by Scott Joplin. On our Oddly scale, that's an easy 5 out of 5. It's a chiptune cover, and it's the entire song. The Entertainer was first published in 1902, only 82 years before Quango in 1984. The Entertainer went on to be named by the RIAA in the top 365 songs of the 20th century. You can find it at number 10. Not a bad ranking. When you take 100 years worth of songs and only 9 songs are ranked above, that's a level that 99.9% of composers will never reach. The Quango theme was composed by Chris Cox, and the one thing again that I've noticed about these Commodore 64 games, the composer was listed right on the title screen, and that's something I'm all for. We do have many more Commodore 64 themes that sound oddly familiar. It was a popular trend to throw in some of your favorite tunes. You can't really do it these days, but back then the games usually weren't backed by multi-million-dollar companies. It was definitely a different time. Anyway, last but not least, huge shout out to Golden Tier patrons Bear Sona, Quantum X, MJJ, and Sloperij Janssen. I am ICC. Thanks for watching. Peace.